Okay, everyone, thank you very much for joining. I'm Matt Law. This is the connection hour for this month, and we actually are going to have a very important topic close to many of us, and actually very close to myself as well. And I'm joined with a good friend of mine, Natalie, who's going to talk to her about her story and about trauma awareness. Then we're going to open up for some questions, have some breakouts to talk about this important topic, and then come back and share and see how we go for the entire hour. And with that, Natalie, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Matt. I want to thank Manije for creating this space for every person who contributed to creating this space and for this opportunity to talk about this topic, and to each and every one of you for being here. I think this topic is very important, and it's very important to continue conversations around trauma awareness and mindfulness and transformational work. And so that's why I'm so happy to see so many of you here, and I'm so happy to learn almost every day that this topic resonates in so many hearts and minds of so many people who are trying to find a way to serve in a better, safer mode. And before I start, I would like also to honor all the experiences, because what I'm going to talk about, I will share my story, and I am certain that each and every one of you has a story too that links you to this topic and your own experience. And almost every interest, every person with whom I spoke about this topic, there is suffering and pain that that person went through. So I would like to honor all these experiences, all the suffering and the pain, and also the energy that went into this topic, and people are contributing to it and will contribute to honor the complexity of this area. And before we proceed, just a little bit of trauma sensitivity orientation, if that's the topic of our conversation today. So I thought I could offer some minor pointers maybe, because we will talk about something that might stir up some emotions or might bring up some memories about your own experience. And so I would invite you to treat all of these signals coming from your body or nervous system, or if you feel that you need to leave this space because it's getting like too much, to treat them with care and see what would be the best way to respond to that. And we might choose as we go, maybe pause at some point, just, for several moments in silence to honor what will be shared, not just by me, but all of you later during this hour. So that's a little bit of, self-care. Just in my sanghas, I use this symbol: never remove your hand from your pulse. And every invitation is an invitation. So before proceeding, just see how you respond to that content, to this conversation, and what would be the most mindful and supporting way to be here. My talk will be about 3 different things, and I just wanted to walk you through that so you know what to expect in the first part of this hour. First, I wanted to tell you very briefly how I ended up here in this space at this hour talking to you about this topic. What was my chain of events that led me here to this moment? Then I'll share where I am currently on my journey, trauma healing journey, and what I would like to do with all of that experience and what it has brought for me in the future. So my story, the present situation, and the future. And if it's okay and we're ready to proceed, then I'll tell you briefly my story. A couple of years ago, by my professional background, I'm an international lawyer. International law, trade policy, and sustainable development. That's my previous life. And maybe 2 years ago, in the middle of what I thought was my dream job, at the most active part, in the most active part of that period, my body just collapsed with maybe the most excruciating pain, except for the childbirth, that I felt in my life. Teams of doctors came in and out. They did tests on me. I couldn't even open my eyes or check messages on my phone because I was in so much pain, and they couldn't figure it out, what was wrong with me. So that's how I was kind of forced to start paying attention. And usually when the official medicine cannot tell you, the doctors cannot tell you what's going on with you, very often it's some story, some pain, some unaddressed issue on the inside manifesting. And about the same time, I started MMTCP. Many of you are aware of this program, Mindfulness Meditation Teacher Certification Program with Tara Brach and Jack Cornfield. And halfway through the first year, when we approach hard practices for the first time, my childhood trauma erupted in the worst possible way. And it was decades ago, it happened to me. And I forgot, I never thought about it. I never spoke to anyone about it, but not because I wanted to forget all of that experience, but because I thought I was fine. And I was completely over it. And it never crossed my mind. For years and years and years, it was long in my past. And there we go, in the middle of self-forgiveness module, I feel like I'm gutted. And it took me months to recover, picking my pieces off the floor. I wanted to withdraw from the program and never do anything with any mindfulness or meditation ever again. Then I talked to my mentor, I talked to other people on the program, and I told them, maybe I'll try to turn this difficulty into an opportunity. And I literally birthed a text, a meditation that I needed to hear in my struggle to be able to stay in that space and on that track. This fall, I'm delivering a course that was developed from that meditation. And the idea, and you might know as advanced practitioners that when we talk about trauma, hard practices, they have this tendency to be very sensitive for people with trauma. That can be self-forgiveness or compassion or even joy meditation. Some people cannot even go into that space due to their unaddressed trauma. And so I developed a course that bridges this gap, because for me, it was absolutely inaccessible I couldn't go there, no matter how I wanted in my heart and in my mind. I needed something for me to stay with what was coming up and approach, not even to knock on the door of self-forgiveness, but just approach it and stay in the same space with my trauma and the energy of letting go. And about when my trauma came up, there was the time last year when I was supposed to start in MBA and I couldn't. I was in such bad shape. And maybe because of my experience on MMTCP, when I tried to look at some lectures in Inner MBA or attend some live sessions, I sensed on my skin the same pattern that knocked me out on MMTCP, that some things, some fabulous things that are offered on MMTCP and Inner MBA that are aimed to help people navigate their inner experiences might be inaccessible, ineffective, or even unsafe without trauma-sensitive approach. And that's what I really felt back in that moment. And through continued trauma work, and I sought help, I enlisted in trauma healing program. Maybe some of you know, Sounds True, also producing it with Geoffrey Rutstein, that helps people with trauma navigate their experience with their own trauma. And then with my first client, when I started working on mindfulness meditation, after introductory course, his worst childhood trauma comes up and he tells me, so many therapists came before you. And I couldn't even think of letting them anywhere close. And there we do it. So mindfulness does have this ability to create this space where people maybe for the first time in their lives can maybe think for a second, maybe yes, maybe now I can be with that. And many people experience, that's what I get in feedback with some of my clients, that we have shifts that they never experienced through years and years of talking therapy. So mindfulness has this gift, and transformational work that is based on greater awareness has this gift, but that's exactly why, because it can be so effective, it has to be safe. There has to be some rules, some guidance in there, some certain approach that would help people stay on that track. And so through all of this work, the pieces of my puzzle, that's how I'm moving now into the present, started slowly coming together. And I realized that my trauma that I never thought about, and I thought, yes, I love life, I love people, it was off my radar. And then it exploded, and I realized that it nearly hijacked my entire life and took all the key decisions for me when I was not there. Yet I always thought, yes, I was there. Such was the defensive mechanism, very subtle, the story that my mind built up, very elaborate, including my professional career. I realized that at the root of my professional choice was my trauma. And my body knew that all along. All the pieces started coming together, and I remembered that feeling of hot sand in my chest every time I sat at the desk. Feeling my body knew that, but I dismissed it every time as a sign of weakness because I knew better. I thought I knew better with my mind, not my body. The radar with my body was completely dysfunctional. And mindfulness work helped me to restore that. So now one of my interests, how trauma can interfere for people with their self-realization, including their professional path. And I remember so many times when I hear, live your true self, realize your dreams. And I know for some people with unaddressed trauma, all of these things, no matter how you may want it in your heart and in your mind, they're just simply not accessible unless you take a step back and go all the way back to where the wiring started, all the way back to your trauma. And so now, and this brings me to the effect of trauma-sensitive approach and how it can help people with trauma to live their full self. So now I'm in the present, I am in the stage of literally reclaiming my own life. And a couple of words, what I would like, I have the intention to do with all this in the future. I'm very happy that with some other students on the current cohort of MMTCP, we came together because later I realized that was not just my problem. Many people suffered through exactly the same difficulty, and not just on my cohort, not on the program, but on other programs, similar programs with meditation and mindfulness, and on previous cohorts as well. So we came together, and now we are in direct contact and communication with the leadership of MMTCP, trying to talk about it, trying to see what are the solutions, how we can make these amazing offerings accessible, effective, and safe for people with unaddressed trauma. And I used this experience, meaning Sounds True, and these two programs, MMTCP and Inner MBA, on corporate sustainability program that I just completed with Yale School of Management. And you know how we have different capitals, the manufactured, financial, natural, intellectual talent. And very recently they added into that matrix human capital, which is getting more and more awareness, and social and relationships capital. And I used this as my case study. And it was very eye-opening to see that the best practices and all the protocols and the blueprints that the world, the businesses, stakeholders have developed, and they exist now to make the value being created by people and individuals and companies safer and more sustainable, they are not really effective for companies like this. Yet this industry is growing dramatically. And for me, that became a very interesting component of actually sustainability in this field that would include diversity, that would include ethics, accessibility, and accountability, where trauma sensitivity comes in. So that's one of the directions that I'm very curious about, how to make this work, how to make this field safe for people, and how to continue growing in this field in a sustainable way. And this brings me to the final point of our intentions is Inner MBA. And I'm really happy and I'm very grateful to Matt and to the leadership of Inner MBA by supporting us in this effort. We are creating bi-weekly meetings. Matt has mentioned that at the beginning, where we would invite everyone interested in this topic to talk about that and to see how the material, very deep sometimes. And for me, it sometimes looks like, you know, dragging someone through the minefield without calling it a minefield, you know? So it's not just about achieving the purpose of the entire program, the inner transformation of a human being, but even be able to digest all of this amazing content. So we will be talking about all of these things, how the materials land for people, what they might need actually to access that material. We created a separate forum where we can exchange information on these topics. And I see that there is more and more awareness, more and more energy, more research going into this work. Matt, this brings me to the end of my introduction. So I'm open to take any questions or comments from our participants.
Yeah, thank you. I think we're going to open it up for maybe some comments or questions before we go into some breakouts. So if anybody wants to ask a particular question or have a reflection, please raise your hand and we'll go from there. Satu.
Thank you. Thank you for your talk. I have a short question. Could you please open it a little bit? What are the tools or the ways how you bring the safetiness around traumas in mindfulness meditations?
Thank you, Sato, for such a beautiful, beautiful question. And I want to honor, as I said at the beginning, so many people who are trying to find exactly that. You know, all of the ways that how you can make these amazing offerings accessible to people and safe for people with trauma. And when I mentioned with my first client, just after an introductory course, we have this, it's a blessing, but I need to know how to support this person on the journey. And I enrolled into David Treleaven. I think many of you might know about his work. He published that book on trauma-sensitive mindfulness, and he has program and he has many, many resources where with a lot of concrete tools. And maybe to give you an example, at the beginning of my intervention, I gave a little bit of trauma sensitivity orientation because so many people, they come into mindfulness searching. These people are very often strong personalities with very often doer fixer in them. So they want to achieve something through that awakening or transformation. They want to change. They want to find some solution, right? Yet it's all about just being present. And so, for example, in my sanghas, I'm aware of that, right? And the skill to keep your vital signs in check for you. It's a skill, it's a muscle that I realize so many people need to train because it's so easy to rush towards happiness or to want to release your suffering and go there maybe a little bit too fast, too soon. And that's when it can be difficult for many people because we know that's a great source of awakening, of living full alive, happier relationships, self-realization. Yet, if on that road, and for me, I use the image of breadcrumbs in the fairy tale Hansel and Gretel, all these things, the body keeps the score, right? So all of these things, if trauma is coming up, that's a clue. Yes, it's beautiful. That shows, that's a breadcrumb that shows you the way back home. Yet, so it's a gift. Yet, if it's too much too soon, it can damage or have a counterproductive effect, that the person closes up and never wants to even look in that direction. So one way is to acknowledge that. And if the person knows, and that's why on MMTCP, our first point of solutions was orientation. You know, when I went to the ashram to certify as a yoga teacher, the most useful segment for me was before anything started, they sat us down and they said, you know, things might come up. You're going to spend so much resources on yourself. So things might be happening. So please pay attention to your fellow students, to yourself. And that changed everything for me back then. I didn't know anything about, you know, trauma, how contemplative practices can actually, that's a gift. But again, it's a risk. It's a risk and opportunity together. It depends how you manage it, how you help people navigate that. So even just knowing, you know, like back on that yoga program, they told us, yes, this work can have this effect. And for many people, it manifests in all sorts of different ways. We cannot give you an exhaustive list, but you might be okay, but something might be happening. I apologize. There was a sound on my part. There was. So that's it's like, you know, the same ingredients, but the bouillon is different. It's about the approach, the mindset, how you guide people into the practice. And for me, one of the first, I give them orientation. I work on awareness because some people, I signed the waiver. I signed disclaimer on MMTCP where they ask you, if you have an addressed trauma, go elsewhere. But now through our conversations with the leadership, I tell them that disclaimer has to be informed. You know, some people come from parts of the world where they don't talk about trauma. They just get on with their lives. And it's in the mentality, it's in the culture. So it does depend on where you come from. And I signed that disclaimer because I forgot about my trauma. I don't even call it like that. And yet it erupted 6 months into the program in the worst possible way. So it does require awareness work, information, talking to people. And once you walk into this process knowing that it can happen, the moment it happens and what you can do about it, the moment it happens, you relate to it in a completely different way. So Satu, there are so many ways to help people with that, to increase their agency vis-a-vis trauma, their trauma coming up. So, and I know that the blueprint is not complete. The list is not exhaustive. No one knows the golden standard here. And that's why I'm so happy to see all of you here. And I'm so grateful that we're talking about it because it's a shifting area. It's a moving target. And it depends on all of us to create it, to continue talking, experimenting, and creating and sharing our practices. But so 2 main points, maybe 3, that we had experience today with. First, knowing, calling a spade, naming the elephant in the room, awareness, right? Then checking the vital signs. For some people, they don't even know how to do it. They don't know what it is about. They want to achieve and they forget how it's landing for me. Is it serving me in this particular moment? So it's a definite skill that people need to be reminded every step of the way. And in my meditations, before we make the next step, I always remind people to check, do I have the resources to go from my nose to my chest. Even that small, tiny step, we check if it's okay, if I'm ready, if it feels right for me, and supporting. And the last one, as I suggested, the pauses. Very often in the sharing, is just so much, again, too much too soon, right? And once you give that one tiny minute of silence to honor the experience, the pain, the intention that has been shared, the care, then the way you relate to that and how you are in that space and with that experience changes. I hope I answered your question, Satu. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very good. I think, Sana, did you have a question as well? I thought I saw your hand. We can't hear you.
Hey, hello, Matt. Hello,
Hello.
everybody. I just want to appreciate you so much, Natalie. She just invited us. Like, I just got this invitation to join you very, very shortly before. And we're together in the inner MBA. And I'm so excited about this conversation. It's, you know, trauma is prevalent everywhere today. And it's so important today more than ever that we understand what it is. And we learn that it's not to be resolved on our own, that we need each other to, you know, like trees in a grove, like a grove of trees in the forest, we're giving each other resources and support. It's like a whole new attitude. And I'm so excited to be exploring this with you. And so grateful I can really feel your passion for this, Natalie. And just the comment is, you know, like language like human capital. We have to get away from that kind of language. That's like traumatizing almost, like putting humans in that category. It just really, whew, it's, you know, this is this toxic situation that we're in today. So I'm really happy to be here, and sorry for just jumping in, kind of not really knowing where I am, but I'm here on Natalie's invitation and I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you as well. Does anybody else have any comments before we go into a small breakout period? Yes, Olivia.
Yeah, I just got the invitation this morning as well, and I was able to move a meeting around so I could be here, and I'm so glad I did. I've learned so much from you, Natalia. Being in a learning community with you, I've learned so much. And yeah, I think I didn't sleep well in the middle of the night. I was ruminating on some things that bring up trauma for me. History of trauma, and some things I need to do, which I'm afraid will reactivate because they're interacting with someone. And so I found myself really emotional while you were talking this morning. And I've done a lot of work on this. So then, like, how do I tend to myself now? The trauma's activated. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it because of the brilliance and the beautiful way that you present all this. And so then, you know, I feel myself really activated. And so the question is, in this moment, what does caretaking look like? And I don't exactly know. I mean, I went and got myself some water. I did do that. But yeah, that's my question.
Thank you, Olivia, so much. I'm taking that silent moment in a trauma sensitive way, and I hope you'll join me. To honor what you shared. Some people may find it supporting to put your hand on your chest or your belly. Or maybe feel the connection of your feet with the floor. Your hands on your knees. Or maybe just your body. Being where it is now. The contact with the surface. We'll gently move towards the end of this little mindful pause. And just see how it is affected you. And if there's anything else that can support you now. If you feel ready, we can gently open the eyes if they were closed. And see if we can return to this space. If it feels right to be here and continue engaging. If our resources are supporting us at this very moment. My dearest Olivia, I'm just trying to be aware of the time constraints and trust you that you will find a way to support yourself. I am happy to connect later, of course, today after this call. Sometimes for me, doing something manual, going for a walk, a such simple thing as washing the dishes. I put everything away and I go and do something where I see the result, tangible, physical, that really grounds me in moments like this. But that's just me, right? And I'm happy to be with you after this call and support you in any way we may find helpful. And I go back to you, Matt, if we still have the time. Thank you, Olivia.
Sure. Did somebody else have something to discuss? Or we should go into breakouts for a little bit? Okay. Well, I think we'll go into a couple of breakout rooms, and I think what would really be good for everyone to just share and share with each other your thoughts on this topic, and also if you think there's some ideas around how we can bring this forward, and more so in not only our own mindfulness community, but in when we are doing trainings and interactions with different people, and what works for us and what do we think is missing. So we won't go for very long. I think we'll just have a couple of quick shares. And again, the breakout rooms aren't mandatory. We can wait, and we'll come back after about, I think we'll probably, going with time, give it a bit of a share, we'll probably go for about 7 or 8 minutes. Okay. All right, we'll see you all soon. Thank you very much. And if anyone wants to share about some ideas and thoughts around trauma awareness and how we can bring it even more so to our mindfulness community and to society in general.
I'll share. Can people hear me?
Yes, Eric, good to see you.
Good to see you. I had a presentation with David, and what I love, the framing that he created was that we really want to be as inclusive and provide as many options. The analogy uses give as many on-ramps as we're giving guided instruction as possible, as far as, having the eyes open or closed, trying to remain as still as possible. But if people can't remain still, giving options so that they can do body movement, and not boxing people in any type of way. Because when people that have experienced trauma feel boxed in, then they want to leave. So that's really important, is when we are doing guided meditations, to be as inclusive and sensitive. Or if we're doing a focused attention practice, maybe offering listening to sounds in addition to the breath for people that may have breathing issues and trauma around that. So giving options, and as many options or on-ramps to the practice as possible. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you very much, Harry. Yes, Gordon.
I think Eric, you brought to top of mind something that when you said that when someone is experiencing something that they may want to leave, and that just brought to top of mind the classic fight or flight experience. So they either deal with it through leaving and avoiding, or possibly not getting the most out of the experience that's trying to be shared or gone through, by fighting it through the way. It's like, I never understood yoga with weights. I mean, why am I fighting gravity while I'm stretching my body? So it's if the fight or flight is like having weights put on you, they either you throw them down and leave, or you work through them.
Thank you, Gordon. Somebody else would like to share?
Yes, I would love to share. I wanted to share that I thought what you said in regards to orientation is so brilliant, because I've been on this journey for a couple of years of addressing my trauma, and I've done like a deep cleansing of it. And I think that going into it, I didn't really know what I was going into. I just know that I was suffering. So it was like, and because I needed something else, I sort of just went into it. And I think that orientation is so necessary. I mean, it would be really helpful whenever we talk about it, to sort of give a blueprint or like a map of like, this is what you're getting. This is like sort of like what's what you're, to kind of give consent to the consciousness that's present before they, so that they're aware. And I think that was brilliant. And also, I think Eric said to give as many options as possible. I thought that was brilliant as well. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else would like to share? I think then, Natalie, we can take a few minutes for you to guide us out to end the hour. That would be a great way for us to end, I think.
Thank you, Matt. I just want to thank all of you for being here. Manija for this space, Matt for organizing this session, and everyone for supporting this session and this topic and for the continued conversation. And circling back to what I started with, I'd like to honor your energy, your experiences, your pain, your light. With 1 minute in silence to give space to all this together. Thank you all so much
Thank you, everyone.
for this time.
Stay in touch and looking forward to the next month of our Connection Hour as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.